Very good afternoon, everyone. This is Dr. Pooja Gupta from ITM University for the physiotherapy. Okay, now today our topic is pleura and pleural cavities. As we are dealing in thorax region, so we have done with the thoracic cage. Now we are going to explore more in pleura and pleural cavities. That is, what is pleura, what is pleural cavity, and what are the various membranes, and what are the extension of this pleura. Okay, so let's start with the pleura. So, but basically, pleura is singular and pluri is a plural form in which it is a thin, smooth, glistening, delicate serous membrane which covers the lung, the lining of the wall of the thorax, and this is a layer of mesothelial cells supported by connective tissue. Okay, so basically, pleura is the sac in which the what you can say the lungs rest in. Okay, fine. So the pleura is basically the covering of the lungs. Okay, so it covers the lungs. It lines of the walls of the thorax from the inside. It lines the walls of the thorax from inside, and this is a layer of mesothelial cells supported by connective tissue. So you can see here, as you can see here, the pleura, you can see the fine pink membrane, that is the pleura. Okay, that is the pleural space, and you can see ribs, then lungs inside, and a thin layer of mesothelial cell, that is called as the pleura, that is the covering of the lungs. Fine. Next is the layers of pleura. So there are two layers of pleura that are contained by pleural. The two layers of pleura that contained by pleura, that is the visceral pleura and parietal pleura. So the pleural cavity is a potential space between the viscera and parietal pleura. Okay, so as you can say, there is two layers of pleura. That is, one is the visceral which lines the lung, and the outer one is the parietal pleura which lines the thoracic wall from inside. Okay, so the parietal pleura is the outer one, and the visceral pleura is the inner one. These are the two layers of pleura, and the space between the potential space between the visceral and parietal pleura is called as the pleural cavity. Okay, so as you can see here, this is the pleural cavity is lined by the single layer of flat cells, mesothelium, and an associated layer of supporting connective tissue. Together they form pleura. Okay, so as you can see here, this is, I can zoom out this. So this is the lining. Okay, this is basically the lining. As you can see, this is the lining which is covering the pleura, which is covering the lung. Okay, so the space between two layers of pleura is the pleural cavity. Okay. So the what are the structures? Same. Each pleura can be divided into two parts. The same thing, that is the pleural, parietal pleura and the visceral pleura, which covers the lungs, and the visceral pleura covers the outer surface of the lungs and extends into the interlobal fissure also. Okay. Now this visceral pleura is extended in still inside the visceral. What you can say, the interlobar fissures. So it is continuous with the parietal pleura at the hilum of each lung. Okay, so the visceral pleura is in continuous with the parietal pleura at the hilum, at the root of the lung, where the various structures enters the lung, the your trachea, your primary bronchus and all. So this is where structures enter and leave the lung, that is the hilum. Okay, so visceral and parietal pleura is in continuation at the hilum of the lung. So next is this, you can see the parietal pleura, the outer layer here in the picture. Okay, and the visceral layer pleura the inner, and more inside is the lung, and the space, the potential space between the two layers is the pleural cavity. Okay, so the parietal pleura associated with the walls of pleural cavity, and visceral pleura, the pleura which adheres to and covers the lung, reflects from the medial wall and onto the surface of the lung. Okay, so this is the parietal and the visceral pleura. Next is about the parietal pleura. What are the parts of the parietal pleura? How the parietal pleura is splits into different areas of the lung. So the parietal pleura covers the internal surface of the thoracic cavity. Okay, as we are discussing this only, it covers the internal surface of the thoracic cavity. It is thicker than the visceral pleura. It is more thicker than visceral pleura, is thinner, and the parietal pleura is thicker, and it can be subdivided according to the part of the body that it contact with. So the parietal pleura is divided into the various parts according to which it is connected with it, the part of the body into which it is connected. Okay, so therefore parietal pleura is split into following four parts. What are the four parts of the parietal pleura? The costal pleura, the diaphragmatic pleura, the mediastinal pleura, and the cervical pleura. So these are the four parts of parietal pleura: costal pleura, diaphragmatic pleura, mediastinal pleura, and the cervical pleura. So as you can see in this picture, it's very clear how this thin blue film, this thin blue film is the parietal pleura, which is covering the inner surface of the thoracic wall. Okay, and its various parts also. You can see here the costal part, which is covering the ribs. Okay, the diaphragmatic parts, which covers the diaphragm from above. Okay, as you can see here from the diaphragm, this is diaphragmatic, this is costal, then there is mediastinal at the middle, at the median part, that is mediastinal, and at the top is the cervical, at the conical area, this is the cervical pleura. Now next you can see the how the parietal pleura is divided. Next, the mediastinal pleura covers the lateral aspect of mediastinum, the central component of thoracic cavity containing a number of organs. Okay, so at the mediastinal pleura covers the lateral aspect of the mediastinum. Means mediastinum is the central part where this heart situated. Okay, so around that space, it covers the lateral aspect of the mediastinum. Okay, the central component of thoracic cavity containing a large number of organs. And the cervical pleura is the lines the extension of the pleural cavity into the neck. Okay, so it, as its name suggests, the cervical pleura, so it lines the extension of the pleural cavity into the neck. Costal pleura, it covers the inner aspect of the ribs, costal cartilages, and the intercostal muscles. So costal pleura basically covers the ribs, the intercostal cartilages, and the intercostal ribs. And the diaphragmatic pleura covers the thoracic surface of the diaphragm, the thoracic or the superior surface of the diaphragm, that is the diaphragmatic pleura. Now you will deal with the visceral pleura. What is visceral? Also called as pulmonary pleura. Fine. So the visceral pleura entirely covers the top layer of the lung, with the exception of at the hilum along the connection of the pulmonary ligament. Okay, so the visceral pleura is a continuous, entirely covers the top layer of the lung. Okay, it covers the lungs with the exception at the hilum only, where the various structures enters and leaves the lung. So it is and along the connection of the pulmonary ligament, it is absent. It remains absent there. So it also extends in the depths of the fissure of the lungs. Okay, it is firmly adherent to the lung surface and can't be divided from it. It is firmly adherent to the lung surface and can't be divided from it. Okay, it is tightly connected, tightly attached to the lung surface. Okay, So this is about the visceral pleura. Now the various fine. Now the various parts of the costal pleura. See, in detail with the costal pleura is it is. So it lines the inner surface of the thoracic wall, being composed of ribs, costal cartilages, and intercostal spaces, to which it's loosely connected by a thin layer of loose areolar tissue termed endothoracic fascia. Okay, fine. So the costal pleura basically covering the ribs, costal cartilages, and the intercostal spaces. Okay, to which it's loosely connected by a thin layer of loose areolar tissue that is termed as endothoracic fascia. And in living beings, endothoracic fascia is easily separable from the thoracic wall. Okay, so this is about the costal pleura. Next is you can see here. This is very nice picture. You can see the various structures here. See, as you can, this is the aorta and the arch of the aorta and the big red pipe. You can see this is the arch of the aorta and the descending aorta. Okay, from here is the opening of the vena cava, and you can see the forestrip up above. This is the forestrip, and okay, and the thoracic duct here, and the thoracic arch of aorta is here, fine, and this is the esophagus. Esophagus is a tube. This is the back. Okay, now this is the clavicle. You can see the I want to see you this is the diaphragm, fine, and this is the pericardium, fine, and the good thing is you can see the sympathetic trunk. See how clearly it is here in sympathetic trunk also. So it covers this outer portion. Okay, this outer portion is covered by the thoracic pleura. That is the costal pleura. Fine. Next is the relations of the costal pleura. So the anterior relations, the internal thoracic vessels are directly located on the pleura within the fourth intercostal space. Sternum, costal cartilages, ribs, intercostal muscles. So this is the anterior relations. There is intercostal spaces, sternum, costal cartilages, ribs, and intercostal muscles. Fine. And the posterior relations are the costal pleura is related to the sympathetic chain as well as its branches. The intercostal nerve is located in the middle of the costal pleura as well as the posterior intercostal membrane at the posterior end of the intercostal space. So these are the anterior and the posterior relations. See, anteriorly intercostal space, sternum, costal cartilages, ribs, and intercostal muscles. Posterior also the same, the costal pleura, sympathetic chain especially, okay, and the same as intercostal nerve is located in the middle of the costal pleura as well as the posterior intercostal membrane at the posterior end of the intercostal space. Fine. So this is about the costal pleura. Now about the diaphragmatic pleura. So the thoracic surface of the diaphragm is covered by diaphragmatic pleura. Fine. So below the lower border of the lung, the costal and the diaphragmatic pleurae are in opposition to each other in quiet respiration. Fine. So first is the surface of the diaphragm is covered by the diaphragmatic pleura. Now, below the lower border of the lung, the costal and the diaphragmatic pleurae are in opposition to each other in quiet respiration. Fine. The margins of the base of the lung. So, as you can see, the margins of the base of the lung decline and the costal and diaphragmatic pleurae split up in the deep inspiration. Fine. When the when we have in a deep inspiration, when you breathe in deep, so the costal and the diaphragmatic pleurae, they split up. Okay, on inspiration, these lower zones of the pleural cavity in which the lung enlarges is called the clostodiaphragmatic recess. Okay, on inspiration, this lower zone of the pleural cavity in which the lung enlarges is called the clostodiaphragmatic recesses. Fine. So, okay, that's about the diaphragmatic pleura. Now the next part is the mediastinal pleura. So it lines the corresponding outmost layer of the mediastinum and it creates the lateral boundary for the mediastinum. Okay, because it's covering the mediastinum, that's why it's creating the lateral boundary for the mediastinum, and it is represented as a cuff over the root of the lung. Okay, and becomes constant with the visceral pleura. So this mediastinal pleura part of the costal pleura of this parietal pleura becomes in continuous with the visceral pleura. At the root of the lung, it becomes the visceral pleura because in continuation with the root of the lung. Fine. Now, as you can see, there is the cervical pleura. So, it is this dome of parietal pleura which extends into the root of the neck about 1 inch, that is 2.5 centimeter above the medial end of the clavicle and 2 inches above the first costal cartilage. So, this is the dimensions where the cervical part of the parietal pleura remains. It's a dome of parietal pleura which extends into the root of the neck about 1 inch, that is 2.5 centimeter above the medial end of the clavicle. Okay, and to 2 inches around 5 centimeters above the first costal cartilage. Fine. So it is also called as cupula. Okay, cupola. Fine, cupola, and covers the apex of the lung. Fine. So it is covered by the suprapleural membrane. It is covered by the suprapleural membrane. Fine. Now, the cervical pleura. So, the cervical pleura is the topmost part of parietal pleura inside the root of the neck. We have done with this. Yeah, it's just a repetition. So, here you can see the same picture. The suprapleural membrane at the top. You can see the various other parts of the pleura, the costal pleura, the diaphragmatic pleura, same. This is the diaphragmatic pleura, this is the costal pleura, the suprapleural membrane, and the cervical pleura, especially they have see at the neck 1 inches from the clavicle and first costal cartilage 2 inches from the first costal cartilages. So it's a various dimensions they have given. In the pleura surrounding the structure at the root, you can see here the gap between the pleura. So this is structures in root of the lung, pulmonary ligament, costal part, and the various. It's showing the covering of the various parts of the parietal pleura. Now, next is the relations of the cervical pleura. So I'll go a little quick over this. Just you listen to it and just imagine how, and then we'll discuss in the picture how they are related, the relations of the cervical pleura. So the scalenus anterior muscle, it envelopes the anterolateral part of the dome of the pleura, parting it from the subclavian vein that terminates at the medial border of the muscle. Fine. The subclavian artery traverses directly superior towards the vein and the dome below its peak, and from the subclavian the vertebral artery rises above it. Okay, the internal mammary artery goes downward from the subclavian. After it travels behind the innominate vein. Fine. The costocervical trunk arcs towards the back from the subclavian and goes across the summit of the dome. So there are the various relations, interior relations, the subclavian vein, the scalenus anterior, the subclavian artery, the vertebral artery, internal mammary artery, the Costocervical trunk arcs towards the back from the subclavian and goes across the summit of the dome. So its superior intercostal branch goes downward behind the dome in the middle of the fourth intercostal nerve on the lateral side, as well as the fourth thoracic sympathetic ganglion on the medial side. Fine. So the vagus nerve goes down on the right side in front of the medial part of the subclavian artery. Its continuing laryngeal branch turns around the lower border of the artery. The ansa subclavia is located towards the lateral side of the recurrent nerve. So these are the various relations of the cervical pleura. Okay, fine. So now we'll deal with the pleural cavity. What is the pleural cavity? Now the pleural cavity is a potential space between the parietal and the visceral pleura. It contains a small volume of serous fluid which has two major functions. It lubricates the surface of the pleurae, allowing them to slide over each other. Fine. And the serous fluid also produces a surface tension, pulling the parietal and the visceral pleura together. Fine. So basically it's a potential space between the parietal and the visceral pleura. Okay, and it contains the serous fluid. A small amount of fluid that is called as the serous fluid, which has two major functions. It lubricates the surface of the pleura, allowing them to slide over each other in the deep inspiration and all. And the serous fluid also produces surface tension, pulling the parietal and visceral pleura together. Okay, and this ensures that when the thorax expands, the lung also expands, filling with air. So whenever you go for deep inspiration, the thorax expands and lung also expands, filling with the air. Okay, as you can see here, the continuation of pleural cavity in between the parietal and the visceral pleura. Okay, so the green colored is the parietal pleura, inner one is the red color, the visceral pleura, and the pleural cavity in between both the layers, and the continuation of discontinuation of the layers at the hilum of the lung, where they becomes the parietal pleura becomes the visceral pleura. Okay, well, now next is the pleural recesses. So anteriorly and posterior-inferiorly, the pleural cavity is not completely filled by the lungs. This gives rise to recesses where the opposing surfaces of the parietal pleura touch. Okay, so there are two recesses present in each pleural cavity. The costodiaphragmatic recesses located between the costal pleurae and the diaphragmatic pleura, and the costomediastinal recesses located between the costal pleurae and the mediastinal pleurae behind the sternum. Okay, so these are the two pleural recesses. These are the what you can say is discontinuation of the pleura at various areas, costodiaphragmatic and costomediastinal. So these recesses are clinical importance as they provide a location where the fluid can collect, such as in pleural effusion. Okay, so such an pleural effusion is a condition where the fluids get collected over the because of some infection or inflammation or any other like tuberculosis or other emphysema. Various conditions are there in which there is pleural effusion. So these are the spaces where the fluids gets accumulated. Okay, now as you can see here, okay, you can see here you can see here the pleural recesses. Okay, the pleural recesses is a deep hollow created by pleural effusion. Costodiaphragmatic, they've given the costodiaphragmatic at the lower end. You can see here, this is the costodiaphragmatic and the costomediastinal here. Fine. So costodiaphragmatic slit-like space between the costal and the diaphragmatic pleurae along with the inferior border of the lung which enters through it in deep inspiration. Fine. So it's a slit-like space between costal and diaphragmatic pleurae along the inferior border of the lung, which enters through it in deep inspiration, and the costo-mediastinals, that is slit-like space between the costal and the mediastinal pleurae along the interior border of the lung, which enters into it in deep inspiration. So these are the two pleural recesses. You can see the bare area of the pericardial sac. Okay, this is the bare area of the pericardial sac. Then there is cardiac notch here on the lung. Fine. And the copula, the cervical pleura. Fine. So these are the various structures. Now the neurovascular supply. The two parts of the pleurae receive a different neurovascular supply. Fine. So parietal pleura is sensitive to pressure, pain and temperature. It produces a well localized pain and is innervated by phrenic and intercostal nerves. So parietal pleura is supplied by the phrenic and the intercostal nerves, and the blood supply is derived from the intercostal arteries. Fine. So this is the nerve supply of parietal pleura, the phrenic and the intercostal nerves and the intercostal arteries. Next is the visceral pleura. So the visceral pleura is not sensitive to pain, temperature and touch. Its sensory fibers only detect the stretch. Okay, so it also receives autonomic innervation from the pulmonary plexus, a network of nerves derived from the sympathetic trunk and vagus nerve. Fine. So, and the nerve supply is by the pulmonary plexus. Fine. And the arterial supply is via the bronchial arteries, branches of the descending aorta, which also supply the parenchyma of the lungs. So the arterial supply of the visceral pleura is the bronchial arteries, okay, which also supplies the parenchyma of the lungs. Now next is the pneumothorax. So pneumothorax, commonly referred to a collapsed lung, occurs when air or gas is present within the pleural space. So what happens, as such pleural space is filled with fluid. Fine. Now when there is some because of injury, stabbing or any reason of any if there is some incision in the parietal or visceral pleura, there is accumulation of air between the two layers, between the parietal and the visceral layer. So the space between the two layers is filled with air now, okay, reducing the lung extension. Fine. So this pneumothorax is the clinical features include the chest pain, shortness of breath, asymmetrical chest expansion. Fine. And upon percussion, the affected side may be hyperresonant due to excess air within the chest wall. So when we do auscultation and percussion to detect the air, presence of air inside the lungs, so there is percussion, the percussion is there which tells there is the presence of air inside the pleural cavity, okay, and the sound is the hyperresonant. Fine. Now the spontaneous pneumothorax occurs without a specific cause. Okay, it is subdivided into primary no underlying respiratory disease and secondary underlying respiratory disease present. So this is the spontaneous pneumothorax. In traumatic pneumothorax, a traumatic pneumothorax occurs as a result of blunt or penetrating chest trauma such as rib fracture, often seen on road collisions. Okay, so if there is some blunt or penetrating chest trauma, as I told you, such as rib fracture, it may cause the entry of air inside the pleural cavity. So it may require decompression to remove the extra air or gas in order for the lung to reinflate. This is achieved via the insertion of chest drain. Fine. So this is about the pneumothorax. I think that's the clinical anatomy. There are other things present like hemothorax. So hemothorax is a condition where the blood get accumulated inside the pleural cavity. Fine. And there are emphysema and the other various other conditions are there. Hemothorax. Then there is pleurisy, where is this infection or the accumulation of pus inside the pleural cavity, that is called as the pleurisy. So these are the various clinical conditions. We'll go in detail about this condition when we'll go for chest conditions. So I think that's about all about the pleura and the pleural cavity. And if you have any question, you can ask anytime. That's it. So thank you so much.